Hello and welcome to Volume 7 of Nucleus Shortcuts. I'm your host, Adam Dudley. And if you missed earlier episodes, not to worry, you can find those on our blog at nucleussec.com, as well as on our YouTube channel. So just search Nucleus Security on YouTube, and you should be able to find our channel. So our topic today is instilling security culture in dev teams with Nucleus, and my guest is Gil Azaria. Gil is our Director of Ops for APAC and resides in Australia. So, a significant portion of Gil's time is spent with customers, helping them to realize the value of Nucleus. And his work also involves informing product strategy and designing new features and enhancement. So, I wanted to have Gil on today because he has an extensive background in application security and works with a lot of security and development teams, helping them onboard to Nucleus. So, a while ago, he shared with me that a big part of why Nucleus is so valuable to AppSec is that it can instill a security culture in dev teams, which is something a lot of our customers want. So I thought that was fascinating benefit to surface for our audience. So here we are. Now, Gil, would you like to introduce yourself briefly and share anything I might have missed in your introduction?
Sure. No, I think you got it pretty right. But yeah, I'm Gil. For our audience, as Adam said, I'm the director of operations for APAC, and I work with a lot of customers in the region, large and small, across their entire vulnerability management program. But in particular, their AppSec program, and with customers that are doing cloud transformations and have a big developer involvement in security. And I help them to realize the value of using Nucleus and to help them to use it to further their program, their vulnerability management program, and their cloud transformations, and really get them up to speed with dealing with vulnerabilities in today's modern age.
Great. Thanks, Gil. Appreciate you being here. So, for the folks watching at home, would you mind just giving a brief overview of how Nucleus actually helps with AppSec? And then from this perspective of infusing development with security culture.
Yeah, so Nucleus is a platform that allows us to aggregate data from lots of different vulnerability sources and asset sources into a single view. And this is particularly relevant for application security and for development teams, because up until now, there hasn't really been a great way of taking all of your vulnerability data for all of your applications and giving a really easy view to developers of what the problems are with the assets that they own and build and run and operate and patch. So the value that Nucleus brings from that perspective is, you can get all that data into a central place and view that, and then you can start to expose that to development teams so that they can really take advantage of all of that data. They can take ownership for it, and they can really start to self-serve security in a big way. And Nucleus really makes that possible, and it makes it easy because you can get that single pane of glass, and you can break things up, and you can allocate and categorize that information to the right people and the right teams, so that they can really easily just hit the ground running, and they can self-service.
Nice, nice. So one thing I heard there that I like to remind the audience of in each show is that Nucleus does ingest all different types of data sources for different areas of security. So not only application security, but network security, cloud infrastructure, and even pen test results and compliance audits. And it brings all that vulnerability data and allows the users to deal with that data all in one platform. So hence Nucleus, right? We bring everything together, and we're the center of the program. So something you said there was, to summarize, you really said that Nucleus allows for the exposure of the vulnerability data to the development team so they can self-serve and self-manage. I'm curious, how are customers trying to do this without Nucleus before they find us?
So previously, customers were really just kind of ad hoc, trying to track things in Jira or trying to track things in Excel spreadsheets. It's a very manual, painful process. In a lot of cases, customers weren't really doing this at all. Like security teams do their best effort, but it's a difficult problem to solve. So, by migrating to Nucleus and using the inherent functionality and the features in the platform, it makes it really easy to get that data in and to show who owns what, and you can really do it with any type of data as well. It's kind of one of the biggest powerful things about it is that you don't have to just stick with some of your CI/CD kind of DevSecOps AppSec tools. You can also upload manual pen test data. You can also upload bug bounty data, responsible disclosure program data. You can get all of that into that central location so that devs can actually consume all of that information, all of that security information from a single pane of glass.
Nice. And from your experience in AppSec, Gil, and from the discussions with customers, what does the value look like, for the customers, once they get Nucleus implemented and they start, realizing the benefits of this self-service model? How does that help the culture around security with development teams?
Well, security teams often are the thorn in the side of a development team.
Right.
It's that team that comes along and says, hey, you need to fix this thing. It's really important. And what's frustrating to developers, particularly developers in kind of modern organizations that are following agile principles and they're very, they own their own apps and they are running quite quick and in an agile manner, is it doesn't really gel with them and they don't really have an understanding and they don't really have the time or the ability to just kind of prioritize this out of the box, I should say, out of left field type request. So,
right.
The value that it brings and what's kind of realized is that by security teams exposing all of this information and providing it in a presentable, easy to digest way for development teams, they can actually start to consume that data as part of their existing processes and implement it in. And, you start to see developers, I really mean self-service, right? They start to self-service this information and then they start to actually just proactively patch things. And they start to proactively, change their own development lifecycle and change their own approach to development and to product build and management to make sure that security is a first-class citizen in that process and not the, not that thing that comes from an email or an Excel spreadsheet, towards the end or in an opportune time.
Yeah, and having briefly had a career as a software developer, I know the difficulty of being interrupted by those things that you're not expecting, and especially things that maybe you're not familiar with or you hadn't heard of before, just showing up in your inbox or on your Slack and telling you, hey, you have to fix this, and you don't even know what's going on. So
absolutely.
So
I mean, it's really it's really interesting to see how, like, when you start to trust your development team and you start to give them a lot more power and a lot more information, and you give them, like, developers are problem solvers, right? They're engineers. They fix issues. They ideate on them and they come up with solutions. So when you give them the data and you say, hey, come up with a solution to this, instead of just coming to them with a frustrating single task that they don't necessarily understand, they'll actually solve it in a way that really makes sense. And that's the whole idea, being proactive and shifting left and getting this stuff built into the process so you don't have to come with that thorny issue all the time.
Yeah, and it really sounds like, security is and can be the bottleneck for development and getting software out there faster. So, it sounds like this is maybe bring some degree of harmony to the relationship between security folks and developers. That's awesome, Gil. I love, how we're able to just cover this topic in a brief amount of time. We are trying to keep this true to the brand name of the show, which is Shortcuts. So I love the tight focus on our topic today. So, before we wrap up, is there anything else you want the audience to know about this topic?
I honestly think that this is kind of the future for vulnerability management in AppSec and across enterprises and across different tech stacks. But really, as a industry, we're moving away from that piecemeal approach to fixing issues, and that by leveraging the greatest assets in front of you, or aka your tech teams, your development teams, to solve this problem, you're really solving for the future rather than prolonging the existing pain that is VM.
Excellent. And that is a wrap. Gil, thank you very much for joining us today. And we
My
will share
pleasure.
links in the show notes, including how you can get a free trial of Nucleus or take a demo. And we will see you soon on the next Nucleus Shortcuts.